Hey there, friends. Thanks for checking in. Today I want to talk about 7 guns that changed the gun world. It changed the direction. It changed the way shooters thought about guns and the gun market that's always evolving. These 7 guns made a large impact on that. Let's start with this. SIG P365. When SIG created this in 2018, they took the magazine first, built a gun around the mag, and many people were saying SIG invented a way to get a little handgun like this and make it a double stack. Oh, it's so crazy. It's so great. Oh, more capacity, 10 rounds. SIG did not invent it. You know who actually was the pioneer of the small subcompact double stack 9mm handgun? Kel-Tec with the P11. Now, Kel-Tec had the P11 back in 1995. So although SIG did a great job, I don't want to say perfecting it because initially it had a lot of problems, but I'll tell you a gun that had a lot of problems, the Kel-Tec P11. And so it was around for over 20 years. Kel-Tec, heavy in innovation, also artificial scarcity, but they never took that P11 and updated it to make it more user-friendly. SIG did that. And what do we see? We see so many other manufacturers making their versions. The Hellcat, the Shield Plus, the Max 9, the GX4. I can go on. Everybody's doing it. But that is the truth behind the subcompact double stack 9mm handgun. We talk about pistol optics. They're mainstream now. They weren't always like that. Many of you were probably like me. You fought optics. You didn't want anything to do with them. But you'd see them in competition. You'd see them here and there. Perhaps somebody got a slide, but he said, what are they doing? I remember I saw these guys with these big optics. I said, that belongs on a rifle. Well, now it's mainstream, and we say that the Glock did it with the MOS system in 2015, or SIG did it in 2015. They called it the Red Dot Revolution. No, you know who did it? Smith & Wesson with the Core series. They had the M&P Core, that stands for Competition Optic Ready Equipment. Okay, this is not a core. This is a M&P 9 metal carry comp. But you get the idea. They took it out of competition and put it into duty pistols with the Core series. And then everybody else followed suit after that. So and this was back in 2012. So what became mainstream had to start somewhere. And it was Smith & Wesson who did it. And now they have many, and everybody has many, because that is the way the direction goes. Now let's talk about 10mm, because 10mm in the 80s only had a couple firearms. It wasn't a big deal at all. And you look at the Smith & Wesson 610 revolver, you look at the Bren semi-auto pistol in 10mm, it was kind of hit and miss. The ammo, which hasn't changed much over the years, was a little more scarce, a little harder to get, a little more expensive. But who brought it back in 2015? Everybody laughed at this company. They laughed at the gun, but it made an impact, because the 10mm I thought was dead. And Glock did with the Glock 40 MOS. Back in 2015, they launched it at SHOT Show. I saw it and I said, this was the big Glock launch? Everybody was laughing at it. Said, what's that thing going to do? Who wants a 10mm? It brought it back. And now what do you see? You see 1911s. You see all types of duty pistols, 10mm, 10mm, 10mm. I noticed that it's dying down a little bit, but for the last 8 or 9 years, it was booming, and Glock did that, no doubt about that. Now, we talk about 10mm, we talk about budget firearms, which is actually number 4, budget firearms. We used to rely on High Point, then Sky, as these budget handguns anyways. But what happened? You remember the Taurus PT-111 Millennium? Do you remember how Taurus had an awful reputation. Their guns break in, not reliable, all types of malfunctions, horrible customer service. And then they had the PT-111. That changed everything. Then the G2C and then the G3C. And this people could pick up for $200 to $225. It changed everything because Taurus, that nobody really cared for too much, became mainstream. Taurus became the go-to budget handgun. And the G3C, which is very similar to the P365, a little bit longer, not by much, is a budget price handgun that a lot of people love. What else happened? Well, you got the Heritage Rough Rider, budget firearm. This has been around forever. $120. Who could do that? You know, you don't have to pay all this money these days. Here's one that I think is obvious. Here we have a Mossberg Maverick 88. What a great shotgun this is. For $220, this is a security model. It has a longer magazine tube, 7+1, 2 3/4 inch. But what a great shotgun this is. For the money, I don't think anything can touch it. $220. I don't care what those Turkish companies come up with. That Mossberg Maverick 88 fires everything without issue, no doubt about it. And that is really something to be said. It's a great shotgun. Another thing that I want to talk about is Glock copies, because when Glock's patent was released in the Gen 3 models, it was released. It just opened up a world of competition for Glock-ready handguns. And what did we see? Well, we used to say Glocks are too expensive. You know, you have to pay a lot of money, $550, and then you have to put another $1,000 into it to get it the way you want it. And yes, that's true to this day. But was it true that Glock was really that expensive? If they're as reliable as everybody says, don't you think that is a price worth paying? Well, it turned out when Ruger introduced the RXM and so many others, we could talk about a bunch. The Dagger comes to mind. The Bull Axe Hatchet, the one I have, comes to mind. Many others. But the RXM is a little bit different. It sells for $400, probably less now. Has a multi-optic slide. You don't need MOS plates. It has metal sights. It has a grade. It's modular, great grip. Uses Glock mags. They like to say it uses Magpul mags because it has a Magpul frame. It's got a flat trigger. It's just a better handgun in my opinion. And so when they came out with this, is it better than a Glock? Well, you get more for the money than a Glock. There's a fact for you. I think it's a fact. And so Glock copies, yeah, they're good. Another subject I want to talk about that has changed the gun world is with, where is it? This one right here. 5.7 by 28 millimeter was going head to head with 22 TCM. It was kind of hit or miss, you know, bottleneck, rifle light cartridge, 22, 40 grain bullet, whatever. Okay, but who had it? FN. Who made the firearms? FN. Who created the ammo, or at least outsourced the ammo? FN. It was dying. Nobody cared about it anymore. All right. But when Ruger came out with their version of the Ruger 5.7, it lit up. It was like a whole new world out there in 5.7 by 28 millimeter. And like the SIG P365, you saw a lot of copies being made. Well, not necessarily copies, but you have, you know, the PSA Rock, you have the M&P version, now TSUS has a version. You have a lot of them. And Diamondback comes to mind, a lot of carbines. It was dead, but a company like Ruger brought it back. And they took a similar handgun than the 5.7 that FN made, that they still sell for $1,100, and this actually dropped in MSRP to $549. It once was $750, now it's $549. So they deserve a lot of credit for that. Okay, I just showed the Ruger RXM. Now I show the Ruger 5.7 because that is a very appreciated. A lot of people don't care about 5.7 by 28 millimeter, but I think it's pretty cool. I could live without it, but I do think it's pretty cool. Let's talk about the Shorty 12 gauges. We see a lot of pump action. We see a lot of the short. They're firearms. They're not shotguns. They're firearms. But who put this back on the map in semi-auto? Huh? Do you know? In 2018, Remington did with the TAC 13 V3. V3 is the Versamax system that is amazing. Remington did an incredible job. It decreases the recoil, feed fire, and ejects everything. You can't find them. You can't find them, but there is a market for this. But you can't find them. So what happened? Mossberg came up with the Aftershock. That is in the mid $1,100. This, if you could find one, is in the mid $1,100 to $1,200. Very expensive. But when Remington came out with this, I said this is got to be one of the best home defense firearms out there, and I stand by that. So Remington deserves credit. People like to beat up on them throughout the years, but they deserve credit because they did a lot of good things in the gun world. Then we see them selling off this branch over here, this branch over here, ammo, Marlins, everything else in between. But anyways, that's it. Those were 7 guns that changed the way shooters think, and they literally changed the firearm gun world. If you like videos like this, please subscribe and share. I always appreciate the thumbs up button. Thanks for watching, and you guys be safe.